Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name is Joey Weaver. He is Mike McDaniel. Mike, first question. This is setting up to be a bit of an odd weekend in the ACC. How are you feeling? I know that you've got some weather coming your way. Are you ready? Are you hunkering down? How are we doing?
So I'm in LA. Roadshow, Joey.
Oh yeah.
It's Tuesday evening/night. Depending on the time zone. We've had a number of games canceled for the impending hurricane that's coming, which we'll get into here in a second. I'm trying to get home. Yeah, so I was at Virginia Tech last weekend. We discussed that on the recap. I flew out of Roanoke because my sister and my girlfriend both live in Blacksburg. So I flew out of Roanoke to Charlotte to New York, where I had a meeting on Monday for work, and then New York out here to LA. My plan was to take a red eye on Wednesday night back to Charlotte and get there early Thursday morning. The only problem with that is the latest forecast said that they're expecting tropical storm force winds in Charlotte as early as Thursday morning, which would be right around the time that I land. So I'm trying to figure out how to get home to DC. I'm probably just going to fly straight into to Reagan National there in DC and figure out my car later. So that's my status. Probably will be able to get home. Not sure when I'll have a car next. So that's where I'm at. We'll figure it out. The games this weekend are going to be all jacked up though. So that's one thing we can expect back on the football side anyway.
Yeah, this is a real callback. I think it was about 2 years ago. It's almost 2 full years ago. You'll remember they did College Game Day at Clemson when Notre Dame was in town, and they had like Jeff Tessitore or whatever from the Weather Channel reporting on like
Jeff Cantori,
yeah, him and people reporting on the rainfall in the creeks near the Clemson Stadium, and NC State and Notre Dame played a game where Notre Dame tried to throw the ball 30 times in a monsoon for God knows what reason. It was that kind of weekend. I think we're about to see that again. As you mentioned, Hurricane Florence is currently out in the Gulf, making its way head-on collision towards the southern part of the North Carolina coast. Kind of looking at a landfall sometime around lunchtime on Friday as we record this again Tuesday evening. First of all, to those in the surrounding areas there about to get hit real hard with rain and wind and all that nastiness, our thoughts and our prayers are with you. Hope you're safe. Hope you're able to evacuate if necessary. Please do evacuate if need be. You know, it's not worth risking. However, like you said, we do have some games this weekend. This weather has impacted the games, Mike. As you mentioned, we have 3 games already that have been canceled. NC State versus number 14 West Virginia, North Carolina versus Central Florida, and Virginia Tech versus East Carolina. Those games have all been canceled. Some good out-of-conference action that we will not be seeing this weekend as people try to stay safe and try to free up emergency resources as necessary. We're looking at, during the day on Saturday, the storm really parking itself over the mid-Atlantic area, a little bit of the Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina area. So those are going to be the major affected areas. Other impacted games, we have a few, and we're going to start out talking about those. First of all, Thursday night, we got our first Thursday night ACC action of this year, Mike, as the Boston College Eagles are on the road in Winston-Salem at Wake Forest. And first of all, it's probably a good thing that this is scheduled for Thursday night, because I don't know if this is getting played on Saturday, if that's when it was. But the Eagles, a 5.5-point favorite on the road in Winston-Salem. Noteworthy impact of the hurricane here. This game has been actually moved up. This is usually about a 7:30 start. They're actually going to start it at 5:30 to try to get a little extra time to help get out of Winston-Salem when the game is over. And so, Mike, the Eagles, they're on the road in Winston-Salem on Thursday night, a 5.5-point favorite. We've seen a little bit of Wake Forest so far this year. Their offense looks decent. Their defense not so great. Are they going to be able to contain the D train, especially if this starts getting a little bit affected by some rain?
Well, that's the big question. Wake Forest has been missing pieces on defense off of last year's team, and they've been trying to kind of navigate those waters. To be honest, they've been trying to navigate those without Mike Elko for the past couple of years now, for, obviously all of last season. when he left to become the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, and now, the first part of this year as well. They're still trying to figure out that defense a little bit. And, with Boston College and the way that Anthony Brown is throwing the football, this becomes a very interesting game. Now, if it's affected by weather and there is rain, which we're expecting, obviously, given the current forecast, they're going to be trying to run the ball a little bit more, which is good news for Boston College because they have the best running back in the conference in A.J. Dillon. It's not so great news for Wake Forest if they're unable to stop him, because really that's going to be BC's only real source of offense, not because Anthony Brown is incapable of throwing the football. That's something we've talked about in recent years with BC, where they haven't had a quarterback capable of completing passes. It's not about that. It's just that the weather is really going to affect this game, I think. So can Wake Forest stop the run, and can Sam Hartman of Wake Forest, the freshman quarterback that's played well in his first 2 games here for the Demon Deacons, can he find a way to keep things moving offensively when he's a little bit limited with his arm? Because that's what's going to happen in this football game. The weather is going to be affected on the other side. It's going to be a story of 2 rushing attacks trying to make headway against 2 defenses who may or may not be able to stop the run. I trust Boston College's defense a whole lot more than I trust Wake Forest defense at this point, just because I think BC has the infrastructure and the players that are ready to go defensively, especially in the front 7. We're still trying to figure out what Wake Forest's front 7 looks like and what they're capable of. Because of that, in a game that is going to be impacted by weather here, I like Boston College to win this game and to cover 5.5. I do think Wake Forest will keep this close. I would not be surprised if Wake Forest won this game. I just don't trust their defense as much as I trust Boston College's, and I think Boston College at this point in time is just a little bit better on offense than Wake Forest is. So all things told, give me the Eagles to win and cover 5.5. The over-under in this game is 54, Joey. I'm not touching that given the weather. And to be honest with you, I'm not betting on this game. But for the purposes of this podcast, let's just say BC wins and covers here.
I think I'm with you on that. I don't really trust Wake Forest defense nearly as much as I trust the D train to just keep rolling. As I've said, Mike, the D train stops for no man, and that includes the Steamin' Deeks here. The other thing to consider, as you mentioned, the passing game could be affected. Not expecting a ton of rain right now in Winston-Salem Thursday night, but there is expected to be some wind in play. And Wake has made a lot of hay so far this year on the arm of Sam Hartman. Between that and the potential wind impact, as well as just I think Boston College's defense is going to have the ability to harass Sam Hartman a little bit, maybe force him into a couple of more freshman mistakes, as we've seen already against Tulane. I'm with you. I'm on Boston College minus 5.5. I was tempted to make this my ACC pick of the week. I'm not quite there, especially with the potential weather impact. I think there's one game that I like a little more than that, so I'll reveal that here in just a second. But I'm with you. Give me the Eagles minus 5.5. Anything else there before we move on?
No, I think we're good.
Well, enjoy the first Thursday of ACC action if you're able to watch there. It should be a fun game. Let's move on, Mike. Saturday, scheduled for, and I'm going to have to check here because this gets moved around, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time on what even network is this going to – this is on the ACC Network Extra.
Yeah, God knows what. They've been trying to figure out the TV for that since that was announced.
This game got really complicated. The Virginia Cavaliers, a 3-point favorite at a neutral site against the Ohio Bobcats. With the hurricane coming in, Virginia's athletic director used some connections to actually reschedule this game to be played at Vanderbilt in Nashville. So this is a neutral site game, what was supposed to be a home game for the Cavs. They will be taking on, again, the Ohio Bobcats, who damn near won the MAC last year. Very, very formidable program usually. Last week they didn't play. The opening week they had a really close call against Howard. So may not be your daddy's Bobcats from a couple years ago, but hey, still a pretty solid program. I have no earthly idea what to think of this game with the line and all that, especially the distracting factor, the fact that it's a neutral site game. There's going to be basically no atmosphere here for this. Not that Vandy Stadium is normally a raucous place anyways, but now that you're putting 2 unaffiliated teams there, that's a whole thing. Virginia has been pretty good, probably better than we expected so far this year, but it's really hard to project that against what's Ohio. They've had a close call against Howard and then had a bye week. I am having a hard time making head or tails of this game, Mike.
They had a close call against Howard and then a bye week. We're trying to figure out if Virginia can beat them or not. By
the way, they were 9-4 last year and wrecked UAB in the Bahamas Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about a trash program by any stretch, as you just outlined. Virginia may or may not be trash. I don't know. We're still trying to figure that out a little bit. I thought they had a pretty good chance to beat Indiana. They kept that close, and things got interesting, like we outlined in the recap. I'm just going to say Virginia wins here, but they got to give the football to Jordan Ellis a little bit more. That's becoming an issue. He's pretty good, and he's just sitting in the backfield waiting for carries. I get that Bryce Perkins wants to run a little bit, and he's effective with his legs, but imagine if Jordan Ellis got a few more carries. Maybe Virginia wins that game last week against Indiana. So I don't know, becoming a little bit interesting with the play calling, something to keep an eye on there with Virginia. Is Virginia getting Jimbo'd, as we like to call it? Are they getting Lefflered? Keep an eye on that. And I think if they give enough carries to Jordan Ellis, I think they win this game. Again, don't bet it. I don't know anything about Ohio at this point, and neither do you. So don't bet this game. And we don't, all things told, we don't know much about Virginia either. Like, beat the hell out of Richmond and then lost a close one against Indiana, who may or may not be trash. So stay away from this one. I'll go with the ACC team here, though. Give me Virginia to win, and I guess they'll cover since the spread's only 3. I don't know.
Mike, I'm going to call my shot right now. Are you ready?
Call it.
You're going to bet this game.
3
no points. That's it.
Nah, I'm not going to bet this game. I
think you will. I'm calling it right now. I think you will. That's it.
Hey, I told you I would bet the Indiana game last week, and I did. This one, I'm not. I have no idea what to make of either of these two teams. I am not betting this game.
Yeah, that's fair.
I might bet this game. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, great advice. I would recommend not betting either of these games. There's a lot of outside factor going in here that these games can kind of go either way, and it's just going to be hard to account for any of this when you're trying to figure out who's good and who's not. So would recommend staying away from these. I'm gonna stick with you here. I'm gonna take UVA to cover 3. It's a relatively small line. UVA has been running the ball really well this year. Bryce Perkins has added a lot to that offense, at least when running the ball. So there is some positive stuff we've seen from Virginia that maybe we weren't expecting as much. So give me the Who's here. Take them to cover 3 and move on to 2-1 and keep the train rolling. I think they'll be okay. But yeah, again, a weird game here, neutral site and all that. So don't get too invested in this one. Let's move on, Mike. At 12:30 p.m. on the ACC Network Extra, my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, a 4.5-point favorite on the road, taking on the Pitt Panthers. And we got some bad news earlier today, Mike. Kervonte Benson done for the year. Georgia Tech's leading B-back from last year. And he had a knee injury in the first quarter against South Florida. He is done for the year. Hopefully he'll come back strong next year. So now the Jackets turn to Jerry Howard and Jordan Mason at the B-back position. Both of them are fine, but need some refinement, we'll say. Especially, things like pass blocking with Jerry Howard. Jordan Mason could be doing a little more. I think you'll see him develop over these first few games without Kervonte Benson. But overall, they should be okay at that position. Here's the thing that I'm trying to sort out about this game, Mike. Pittsburgh coming off of a 51-6 embarrassing loss. How do they respond here? Is this a thing where they're embarrassed and they're going to really kick it up and get revenge on that, or avenge themselves? Or is that a little more indicative of the Pittsburgh team we're going to see this year? And I think both of those scenarios are in play. The offense has not been inspired so far this year. The defense, we still need to see that, in a comforting kind of way. Haven't seen that yet. But at the same time, Georgia Tech has lost, I believe, 7 straight true road games. I mean, Georgia Tech has not played well on the road at all lately. So you know what? Just in the interest of fading my own team and maybe hedging a little bit emotionally, give me the points. I'm going to take Pitt plus 4.5. I'm just going to take them outright until Georgia Tech proves me that they can win a road game. That's all. I prove it, Paul Johnson. Give me Pitt in a 4.5. We'll say Pitt wins. I don't know. Say Pitt wins outright, maybe 38-34. 38-34. Yeah, let's go with that.
Wow, losing faith quick. That's okay. That's college football. Okay, so first I'm going to make a really bad injury pun here. Safe to say Kervontae Benson won't be back. Okay. Now that we're past that,
safe to say he will not be back.
Yes. Now, in all seriousness, these have been some really bad injuries for the ACC here. You know, we're getting robbed of good players here. We'll get into the Duke game a little bit later, but now we're missing Kervontae Benson, who's arguably one of the best players on the entire Georgia Tech roster. You know, Duke's missing Daniel Jones and Mark Gilbert. Virginia Tech is, Ricky Walker is already starting to deal with injuries here. And, he's an all-ACC defensive tackle. So, I mean, there have been some injuries plaguing the conference, either season-ending or otherwise here in the early part of the year. So hopefully that does not continue. Now, on this game, I don't know how Pitt bounces back here. I have no idea. And I don't know what Georgia Tech's going to be on the road either. Those are 2 points very well taken. I think Georgia Tech can basically run the ball with almost anybody. Pitt, I'm not sure Pitt can stop it. And I think that was clear, especially in the second half last week against Penn State. Pittsburgh's defense, I don't know if they're any better or not. I mean, I get they gave up 51, so it's easy to just make a blanket statement saying they're not any good, and they might not be. But like Jim Hammett said in the season preview, we're not going to know a whole lot about how good or bad Pitt's defense is until we get about a month and a half into the season, which I think is a fair statement given the caliber of opponents they're playing here in the early part of the year and the different types of offense they're playing as well, with Penn State and then bouncing right back and playing Georgia Tech. Completely different look, but a very good offense. I'm going to take Georgia Tech here. I think Pittsburgh will score some points. The over-under 52.5 is attractive. That could hit over. But Kenny Pickett's got to prove it, right? And the Pitt offense has to prove it. And it was a highly weather-impacted game against Penn State, but they lost by 45, right? And they only put up 6 points. So if Penn State can find a way to score 51 in a rainstorm, so can you. So I only give the weather so much credence here. I trust Georgia Tech's offense more. I, for some reason, trust Georgia Tech's defense a little bit more. I have a feeling that this is going to be high scoring, though. Give me Georgia Tech to win. I think Pitt keeps it inside 4.5, though. So Georgia Tech wins, Pitt covers. Don't feel great about it. Coin flip game. Don't bet this one either, but if you're going to bet it, bet the over.
Oh, good. So I get to sweat this one out. That thing you're saying about betting the over, I'm with you on that one. Seeing some of the glitchiness in Georgia Tech's defense last week, I think there's still some kinks they're trying to work out, especially as it relates to personnel, who should be in the game and when, and who's good, who's not. Obviously, the special teams thing is a mess, kind of for both teams. It was last week, so there's always a chance for some glitchiness there. I'm with you here. I expect a high-scoring game here. Like I said, 38-34, that comes out to upwards of 70 points. So, Mike, give me the over here. I feel real good about that one. And you know what? Let's just lock that up. Let's lock it up. It's my ACC pick of the week. Georgia Tech Pitt over 52.5. Lock it up.
Hey, you didn't wait till the very first bet on this podcast. That's good.
That's right. I showed some patience. It's
good.
So yeah, give me Pitt in the points, and really give me Pitt outright because I just don't trust my Georgia Tech team right now. You're taking Pitt in the points as well, but Georgia Tech outright, and we're both really set on the over in that game. So that's something to really look at. I would say. Let's move on, Mike. And this is as dangerous and trappy a spot as I've seen in quite a while. At noon on ESPN. Our Florida State Seminoles on the road, dangerous to fall victim to the Carrier Dome at some point. Florida State, a 3-point favorite on the road at Syracuse. Whew, that feels dangerous to me. I'm just saying, a team that was made to look bad by Virginia Tech, and then a team that struggled to even just get a win, not even pull away from, but just get a win over Samford at home last week. Man, Syracuse has claimed bigger victims than this. I will say that. This game at noon on ESPN. Mike, are you scared here? You scared for the Noles?
A little bit, but I think everybody is, and rightfully so. Florida State comes out in the opener, lays an egg against Virginia Tech. They come out last week against Samford and needed 2 touchdowns and a field goal in the final quarter to take over the game against Samford and win, right? And I use take over loosely because they trailed up until the 4-minute mark. Yeah, it's hard to have a whole lot of confidence in Florida State, but they have the talent and they can out-talent Syracuse, right? So you have that going for you. Syracuse's defense sucks, Joey. They're very bad.
This is a fact.
They have a bad defense. They've had a bad defense for a long time. They have a very good offense, and this has the potential to get shoot-outy because of it. But with that being said, Florida State has more talent, and they got to figure this thing out sooner rather than later. And I still think Willie Taggart will work there. And I think they have more talent than Syracuse. In fact, I know they have more talent than Syracuse. And Florida State's defense, while they had a bad start against Samford, and truthfully, they had a bad start against Virginia Tech. They went, the Hokies went 10 plays, 75 yards on the first drive of the year. Florida State's defense has held up okay over the first 2 games. They've been okay. And if they get anything going on offense, which I think they will in this game, given Syracuse's situation on defense, Florida State's got a great chance to win with the athletes that they have on both sides of the ball. For that reason, and for the reason also that I think everybody is going to be on Syracuse from a betting perspective in this game, I'm taking Florida State because I just think they have more talent and they're figuring this thing out sooner rather than later. And you know what, Joey? This might be risky, and I might really regret this. Maybe at 12:30 on Saturday, I'll be regretting this. But we're going to lock it up, Joey. Florida State -3. They win and they cover. With that being said, I don't think they're going to cover by a lot, but they're going to win and cover.
I'm not going to lie, Mike. This is ballsy.
Yeah, pick of the week, Florida State -3. Let's go. Let's lock it up. I'll bet it too. You know what? I'll double down and actually bet it.
This is ballsy, Mike. Here's my thing. I'm also getting flashbacks to last year when Florida State got wrecked by Alabama and then came back and lost to NC State. And I said that they were going to get right against Wake Forest and they barely won. And they were going to get right against Miami and they lost. And they were going to get right against Duke and they barely won. And Florida State never really got right until about the last 3 games of the year. That's what I'm wary of here is they kind of barely got right at the end. And now it seems like they're going back to where they're not right. If you're asking me who's the more talented team on the field, that's an easy answer. Obviously it's the Noles, but that this line is 3. I feel like by taking Florida State and saying that everyone's going to try to take Syracuse, you're kind of going contrarian to the contrarian here. I feel like Syracuse is actually the contrarian bet. I think that Florida State is the one that they're begging you to take. Florida State and Syracuse, that talent differential, 3 points, that's it. I think that's where you're looking as a bettor. Is they're saying, here, take Florida State. You only got to give up a field goal. Meanwhile, I mean, Carrier Dome again, a week after what we've seen the last 2 weeks. I'm in full fade Florida State mode. That's it. I don't have a ton of analysis on this game. I think it could be a fairly low-scoring kind of thing. Syracuse can put up some points, but Florida State's defense has generally looked pretty good the last couple of weeks. I'm just going to fade Florida State outright here. I'm going to go Syracuse plus the 3 and outright. Give me the orange to upset Florida State in the Carrier Dome.
Well, you know what? You said the contrarian to the contrarian. Well, the contrarian to the contrarian is my friend. Florida State -3, win and the cover. Don't think twice about it. I want everybody to bet it. Everybody bets it. And we'll just all lose together. Pick of the week.
Lock it up, Mike. Lock it up.
Lock it up.
All right. Well, number being 68 there. Man, Syracuse defense not that great. I feel like Syracuse is just a team that's built for a lot of overs. at the very end of the day, like they're going to score a bunch of points in a lot of games, and they're going to give up a lot of points in a lot of games. 68, that's a pretty big number too, though. So you might want to just stay away from the total.
Yep.
Mike's telling you take FSU -3. I'm telling you take Syracuse on the money line. Sup? Come get it.
Sup?
All right. All right. Yeah. So Florida State -3 is Mike's pick of the week. Let's move on here, Mike. A couple other out-of-conference games, unlikely to be affected by weather, a couple of these, but, who's to say? And let me look here at noon on ESPN2, the number 21 Miami Hurricanes on the road, yes, on the road, in Toledo, taking on the Toledo Rockets. They're a 10-point favorite. This is another one that feels a little bit like a sucker bet of like, Miami only got to give up 10, but then again, I mean, how much do you trust them to score? And we know that Toledo can score from what they've been the recent couple of years. Should I just take the home team and the points here, Mike? It kind of feels like the play if I'm being honest.
Miami wins, but I don't trust Malik Rozier. There we go, got it right. I don't trust him as the quarterback and Miami to cover really any spreads with him under center. Miami's a better team than Toledo. Like, I don't have much to say about this. Miami's better. They should win here. I get that's on the road. They should win here. They won last year. They struggled at the outset. Wouldn't be surprised if it was the same deal this year, given that this game is on the road. But Miami's a better team, and they have more talented players. But as long as 12 is under center, don't trust them to cover any spreads. Miami wins. Toledo covers and keeps it close. Over under 56.5. Again, wouldn't touch that given Miami's quarterback situation. But if I had to lean one way or another, I'd lean over. But, I wouldn't touch it, just given the uncertainty on offense for Miami right now. But Miami's more talented. They win this football game.
Miami did win this game pretty big last year, 52-30 at home. But the thing is, Mike, after 3 quarters, it was just 24-16. I mean, this is a fairly close game, even at Hard Rock Stadium. Everything kind of compounded on Toledo in the fourth quarter. It pretty quickly got up to 38-16, and then Miami scores another couple of touchdowns in the last 6 minutes to really push this thing into a big win. But, I mean, we saw Toledo score 16 points in the second quarter alone. I mean, they're a team that might be able to hang with Miami a little better than we think they can. But I don't know. I feel like I'm overthinking it if I'm taking Toledo in the points. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I'm very torn here. You're on Toledo +10, Mike?
I'm on Toledo +10. Miami wins, though.
I think I'm with you. I'll follow you here. I'll go Toledo plus the points. Miami wins outright. And the thing maybe the big thing that I would maybe lean Miami to cover here is if I'm leaning on like a defensive score somewhere. That's the kind of thing that could really turn this pretty quick. And I think if you're talking about this game going over, that's a big piece of it too. Again, Miami clearly has better talent here, but it's a matter of, again, what kind of quarterback play are they going to get, and what is Toledo what kind of rabbits are they going to pull out of the hat against this really good defense? So I think I'm going to take Toledo in the points and just feel good about that. And maybe Miami runs away with this one, but I'll take Toledo plus the 10. Give me Miami, we'll say 35-27. 35-27 Miami, and that comes up a little bit over the total, but yeah, I'd probably leave that alone if I was you.
Yep.
Moving on, Mike. At 3:30 on Fox Sports 1, the Duke Blue Devils are at the Baylor Bears. And the Blue Devils are a 6.5-point dog going into Waco, Texas. Again, we mentioned on the Week 2 recap show, we found out, unfortunately, that Daniel Jones and starting cornerback Mark Gilbert both out for the year now for the Blue Devils. They got to kind of pick up the pieces here and keep going. They got 10 games left. Quentin Harris looks poised to take over the reins from Daniel Jones. He is a junior. He played quite a few games last year. In his career overall, he is 9 for 15 passing, so he has not gotten a ton of opportunities, we'll say. But it's hard to say necessarily whether this is going to be a step a major step down or just a minor one. Again, an experienced guy in a David Cutcliffe offense could still be good, but I'm probably staying away from this game betting until I know what that's going to look like. And maybe if I got to pick a side on this, give me the Bears minus 6.5, and I'll stick with my prediction that they were going to split Northwestern and Baylor.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll go with that too. We don't know what this Duke offense is going to look like without Daniel Jones. While Mark Gilbert's a pretty substantial loss on defense, he's not the quarterback. So the bigger impact, as good as Gilbert is, he's an all-ACC player. As good as he is, the bigger impact is on the offensive side of the ball at quarterback, without question. Just given what Daniel Jones was as a freshman and how good Duke was versus how they were last year when he struggled. Having him playing well means a lot more to this football team. And now that he's out, we don't know what we're going to get with Quentin Harris, and we'll find out this weekend. I'm not betting this game. I'm going to go with Baylor to win here. I don't know if Duke covers because I don't know what they're like offensively. Just don't bet on this football game. This is just pure gut feeling. I'm going with Baylor because they have their starting quarterback. I don't know. Leave this alone. Tune in to see what happens because they'll be well coached, because Cutcliffe's teams always are. Don't touch this game.
Baylor was 1-11 last year, by the way, Mike.
Yeah, I mean Baylor's like improved, but this isn't like a all-world beating team or something. I just I don't know what Duke looks like without the quarterback, so we'll find out together.
That's really it. Is second straight week on the road, trying to figure out now how to survive without your quarterback. That's where I'm going to go with Baylor, but I don't feel great about it. Let's move on, Mike. The Louisville Cardinals at 7:30 on the ACC Network Extra. The Louisville Cardinals hosting the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. A 22-point favorite are the Cardinals at home. I'm writing up my preview for InsideTheACC.com this week. This is not your daddy's Hilltoppers team. This is not the same as the program that was built up here by Willie Taggart and Bobby Petrino and Jeff Brom. They're not very good. Louisville's still trying to figure out, life post Lamar Jackson, trying to figure out what that's going to look like and what they're going to do. This has been a rough breakup for the Cardinals so far, for what that's worth. Going to learn maybe a little more about Louisville than we did last week, but I think I'm just going to say Louisville covers. This is a lot of points to cover.
Yeah.
You know what? Just give me Western Kentucky to cover 22. I don't think that they end up winning, but I'll take the Hilltoppers to cover 22. That's too many points for me, and there's too many ways to score on Louisville's defense, I feel like. So give me the Hilltoppers plus 22.
Louisville wins here. The more entertaining question is who's going to play quarterback. Like, is it Jawan Pass or is it not? Wow, it's like that plug got pulled quickly if he doesn't end up being the guy. It took a hurricane in week 2, not a hurricane, but like a monsoon in week 2, and going up against Alabama in week 1. And it's like, that's all we got with Jawan Pass? Like, we're pulling the plug after that? It's like, that's interesting. Jawan Pass has a lot of potential. I think he's still the guy. Louisville here, they win, and they win pretty comfortably. I'm going to go with you and say Western Kentucky covers just because of the inconsistency Louisville's shown on offense the first couple of weeks. But with that being said, how much do we really know about the Louisville offense when you play in a monsoon and you play Alabama? Like, how much do we really know about this offense? I don't know the answer to that. I don't feel comfortable enough in Louisville's offense to cover 22 here. I'm not betting this game because I just don't know enough about Louisville. They're going to win. I don't think they're on upset alert by any stretch. I think they'll win this game pretty comfortably in the 17 to 20 point range. But to say that they're over 3 touchdowns better than Western Kentucky, as bad as Western Kentucky is, that's a little bit of a stretch because we just don't know with A, the offense with Louisville, but more importantly, B, the defense. Like, we're still trying to figure that out.
Absolutely. Give me Louisville like 31-17 here or something. I mean, I think it's a pretty comfortable win, but I don't think that they really run away with it outside of 3 touchdowns.
I was going to say 27-10, like somewhere in that range. Like, wouldn't be shocked. Pretty comfortable, no sweat.
Sure. Yeah, the quarterback controversy is something to keep an eye on. If you're watching this game, just keep an eye out for. One other thing you mentioned, Mike, is hey, don't bet this game. Once again, a lot of these games probably not great for betting. I'm not seeing a lot of great things that I feel strongly about this week. A lot of weird out of conference matchups, a lot of weird weather games. So probably not a big weekend to be hitting the book, at least as it relates to the ACC. Last one, Mike. This game is still scheduled and set to be played as of right now. It is being monitored. It could always be canceled. Again, we record this here about 10 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday night. 3:30 p.m. on ESPN2, the number 2 Clemson Tigers hosting the Georgia Southern Eagles. The Tigers a 33-point home favorite. The total here is 45, meaning the plan is for Georgia Southern to score like basically nothing. This is like a 39-6 final, I think, that they're projecting, which sounds kind of right. The biggest thing here is that there is going to be a rain impact, most likely, if they do end up playing this game. This is pretty comfortably within the footprint of where this hurricane is supposed to end up. So heavy rain, heavy wind. I'm going to be surprised if they play this game, honestly. If they do, just give me Georgia Southern in the points, I guess, but more importantly, give me the under. 45 is just too many. There's not going to be that many points. If they might stop this game at halftime or something if they do play it, and I would be a little surprised if they do. So I think give me Georgia Southern plus 31. I don't feel good about it. I don't have a lot of good reason to think that they will, but I also kind of don't think they're going to play this game.
Yeah, I don't think they're playing this game either. But if they did, Clemson minus anything. Like I won't touch the over/under, but I think Clemson could win this game by 5 touchdowns, even if they just ran the ball the entire time, which is what would happen if this game is being played. I don't think it's going to be played. This will probably, honestly, be canceled before we even publish this podcast. But that's fine. We're prefacing it by saying we don't think it'll be played. So, take this information as you will once this eventually goes live, because I don't think this game will occur. But if it does, firmly of the opinion Clemson minus anything, because they're going to overwhelm Georgia Southern with talent. It's just even after the emotional game last week in College Station. I mean, they're at home. It's just Clemson big here if it is played, but it'll be purely because of their running game and Georgia Southern's inability to stop it.
Yeah, totally. That's a huge spread, but I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson could cover it. I'm again purely taking the points and betting on a low scoring slog of a game where Clemson wins like 34-3 and just closes up shop real quick. Mike, that's all the games for this weekend. So again, we agree Boston College minus 5.5, Virginia minus 3, Pitt plus 4.5, Toledo plus 10, Baylor minus 6.5, Western Kentucky plus 22. My pick of the week, Georgia Tech and Pitt to go over 52.5. Yours is for Florida State to cover 3 in the Carrier Dome. I still think that's pretty bold. Records on the year, I am 9-5-1. You're 8-6-1. So I'm only 1 game ahead, and it doesn't really help that we keep picking the same outcomes for these games. So we ride or die together, Mike. I think that's a fair assessment of this podcast.
We also make money together. So
yes, sir. Yes, we do. That's a really good record actually so far against the spread. So. Just keep listening. And by the way, you can go find me on the Action Network if you're interested. I'm posting some of my actual bets and I guess what I'll call my official bets there. But go look me up on the Action Network. My username is jweaver44. So check that out. Mike, that's all I got. Anything else we need to hit on before we get out of here?
Don't think so. Going to try to be a little bit more successful against the spread, keep the momentum going. I had a rough week 1 after the Thursday and Friday games and was like on a 5-game losing streak. Bounced back last weekend though, went 5-3 against the spread. Feeling pretty good about that. So we back, maybe. Mm-hmm. Back to normal anyway. You win some and lose some, but more importantly, a little bit more back to normal. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna try to figure out a way to get home, Joey. Out here in beautiful LA, going back to the hurricane-ridden East Coast, but we'll figure it out. If you're in an infected area, like Joey already said, being a podcast, stay safe, hunker down. I love that saying, hunker down, but seriously, be safe. Not to make a joke about Category 4 hurricane. Yeah, be careful. Don't drive anywhere you shouldn't. Too many stupid people driving in floods. Just don't be stupid. Just play it safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Yeah, we got a phrase down here in Houston that came out a lot. We've had a lot of flooding since I've been down here the last few years, and the phrase is turn around, don't drown. If you see high water, please don't drive into it. Please stay safe. If you're listening to this podcast and driving, and you see high water, please turn around. Don't go into it. Mike, stay safe. Godspeed to you. Good luck. We'll be looking to recap these games here after the weekend's over and hear about how your situation all turns out here over the next couple of days. Until we get back together, the folks can find us on Twitter. I am at FTRS Joey. He is at Mike McDaniel CFB, and together we're at BC Podcast ACC. Y'all can send us an email with your questions, comments, concerns to the longest email address known to man, basketballconferencepodcast@gmail.com.
Nailed it.
Yes, sir. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, the Overcast app, wherever fine podcasts are sold for free. And soonly, you'll be able to – that's a word. You'll be able to find us – soonly, you'll be able to find us on Spotify. But no promises. I just submitted a survey, so we'll see. Mike, tell them where they can find us on the social medias.
Facebook.com/basketballconference. Rate, review, find all of our podcasts there. Rate and review us on iTunes. I keep saying that because people keep reviewing and rating us. So that's good. Keep that going. That can only help us. If you hate the podcast, tell us that too. I can't imagine why you would, but tell us.
Sure.
And we'll try to fix it. So
we'll try. It's a question of how hard we'll try, but I promise you we will try. You have my word.
Yes. If you're a Miami fan, I can only say so many nice things about your school. So keep that in mind.
There you go. You can also find us on YouTube if you want to go search for Basketball Conference. Go do that. And again, you can find me on the Action Network if you want to find out my bets each week. Mike, this will do it. You got a client dinner. Go have fun with that and impress some clients. And we'll come back and recap these games after the weekend is over. And hopefully everybody is still safe and sound.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right. Well, until then, for Mr. Mike McDaniel, I am Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. And until next time, go ACC.